everybody. Welcome to another episode of Open Mic Responder Roundtable. I'm Mike McCabe. I'm your host. Happy to be here today with another special guest. Had a great week last week with Captain Keith Wade of Sacramento. And we follow it up with another great guest by popular demand. We welcome in Battalion Chief Jason Chile Serrano of the San Bernardino County Fire Department. Chile, welcome, my friend.
Thank you very much, Mike.
How you
Glad to
been?
be able to join you today.
Yeah, man, happy to have you. Listen, the craze for having Chile on the show was huge, so we had to reach out and make sure that you would get on with us, and you were gracious enough to pop on. So, again, we thank you. We're going to have a nice conversation with you today, touch upon some of the hot topics in EMS and Fire, and also get your perspective as to what it's been like with the craziness of the show, Live Rescue, and how that's affected you. And so, again, welcome. And I guess just to kick off a little bit, what's it been like? How's it been?
I got to tell you, it's been a tremendous experience for us to be able to have them here, be able to be on the show, and be able to spotlight exactly what we do as first responders and what our organization does. And you know, we realize we're not just representing our department. We realize that we're representing the fire service as a whole, and you know, in particular, the California Fire Service. So being able to show the general public and the audience that's out there, you know, what we do on a day-to-day basis, I think is a fantastic opportunity, and that's why we were very welcoming to the Live Rescue show and crews here to be able to have them follow us around everywhere, just like our viewers see, us on the show cruising around and going on calls and being able to escort cameras around and explain, you know, what's happening, what are we involved with, and allow the public to see the all risk side
Sure.
to the fire service and what we do.
I think that's a great point that you bring up, and one that I was going to touch upon with the all risk, all hazards, so to speak, right? So, you know, throughout the show here, we've had the ability to highlight a lot of different responders and a lot of different response models. And one of them, and we speak about this a lot on the West Coast, is that all hazards model. So explain to me exactly what that all hazards model means for the viewers and the listeners that don't really understand what that means.
The all hazards model basically means, in my own words, any sort of threat that is any sort of incident that poses a threat to the public, we're going to respond to and mitigate. Sure. So emergency medical services, everyone knows that we do that. That's our most common call that we run with the fire department. And so we have paramedic staffing on all of our apparatus. And then there's, of course, the fires, you know, hence the origin of the fire department. Fires, rescues, any sort of rescues or entrapments, traffic collisions, the over-the-side rescue calls. And, over the last few years, we've also been expanding our training and our cooperation with law enforcement with, terrorist events, active shooter, and the like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's really a big deal as well, right? So, one of the things that you'll hear me speak about a lot is about the integration component and integrating our response plans as responders. No longer can we function as police, fire, and EMS, but we have to start to prepare for these major incidents together as a whole. And, let's be honest, any major incident that occurs is going to require the services of all three response models. And although you're an all hazards department, if you move to other areas of the country, similar here on the East Coast, we have a police, fire, and EMS, so a three-service model. So it's different the way it's delivered, but at the end of the day, it's the same principle that we have to mitigate this together. And I mean, not too long ago, you had the San Bernardino shooting. That in the corporate building and everything else. And how did that play out? Again, I never really spoke to you about this off camera, but was the fire services heavily involved in that? Did you have resources that trained with law enforcement to respond to things like that? Or did that maybe fall after the fact?
You are correct with that. Right. In the city of San Bernardino on December 2nd, 2015, we did have a terrorist event. There was an active shooter that actually occurred in the city of San Bernardino. And, we had 14 people die in that incident. We responded to that incident in cooperation, collaborating with law enforcement to be able to take care of those folks and get them treated, triaged to the casualty, brought out to the casualty collection points. Ryan Starling, everybody knows who Ryan Starling is, and he's a phenomenal firefighter, and I'm sure those that know him or follow him all know that he's also a tactical paramedic. So he happened to be deployed training with the SWAT team that day, and they had a very rapid response to that incident.
Yeah,
and we we were assisted by our surrounding agencies, the cooperators on the fire service side, and of course working in conjunction and collaborating with the local ambulance company to provide rapid transport. And of course, we were staged, waiting to respond to that event, and until law enforcement cleared the scene for us.
Sure.
So, one thing in particular that stands out for me on that day when we responded and we were treating people is, Brian Starling was in his full tactical gear, and obviously he was one of our firefighters, but he was doing his SWAT training that day. And he comes out and he says, "Hey, I need help in there." So, a couple of our guys went in with him under force protection and began to triage some patients and victims, and with the assistance of law enforcement, taking out victims to the casualty collection point. And we had every law enforcement agency in the area there assisting. San Bernardino PD with the event, and with our and the county sheriffs, and hauling these patients out to us at the intersection, and we were taking these patients and treating them and then getting them off scene. So
yeah, so hence almost the idea of the rescue task force concept and bringing a medical component, rescue component inside a warm zone of an active assailant. And I know Ryan was on the show at one point, and he touched upon, his experiences with that, and I think that really highlights, almost the cross pollination now of these response, modes, and what we're doing now to, we may not have signed up to be cops, right? But we are now working together to make sure that we affect this rescue the best way that we possibly can with the best possible outcome.
That's right. And I know it was a long discussion of what I just described to you, Mike. But that's just one scenario, a major scenario in our all hazards environment. And listen, we have the same goal, right? So no matter if you are, if you work for a private ambulance company, you work for the county sheriff, you work for a local PD, the state fire department, federal fire department, we all have the same goal: to protect and serve the citizens and the community. And so that's why it is so important that we train together, we work together, we build those relationships with our cooperators and our surrounding agencies to make sure that, when we have those incidents, those major incidents that, need our help and really rely on us to all work together, we're able to do that. Absolutely. So we all have the same goal. So it's important for us to work together.
Yeah, no question. And so, that's really important as far as, making sure that you're ready to respond to whatever. And, that takes me back to the show a little bit, because I'm curious. I know it's been a positive experience for you, but what specifically would you identify as maybe your favorite call on the show or package on the show that we did that was out there and really kind of displayed what you guys are all about?
I think what comes to mind to me first is when Captain Spencer Brumbaugh responded with his crew to the gentleman that had gone down on his bicycle, but he also had his little dog with him.
Sure.
And he was able to, him and his crew were able to take care of that patient, and they went the extra mile to take that dog. And I thought it was so cool seeing that little dog sitting on the cowling next to him. And he took the dog all the way home. And I wanted Spencer to join us, and or Captain Brumbaugh to join us and talk about it, but he actually had to leave to go to a modern fire behavior training today.
Okay. Well, I know that obviously animals are a huge deal, right? With everybody, they're like family, and we know that everybody has a warm place in their heart. So, there's always just that extra little spark when there's an animal involved in these types of events. We know Dan Flynn on the show is a huge advocate of the pups and everything else. So, there was certainly that was certainly touched the heartstrings a little bit to be able to take care of the dogs, and those are things that sometimes the folks out there don't really understand that, we try to make sure that we take care of everything, right? So it's not just the patient, but it's the family members, right? It's the pets and it's those things. We want to make sure that everybody's comfortable in these situations, the best that we can possibly do. Obviously we can't make everything happen, but we always want to go the extra mile, to facilitate that. And we know how important pets are to people. So I think that's pretty cool. Keeping with that, I know that, in emergency services, community service is a really big deal. And giving back to the community is always a big deal. And you started something on the show that I thought was really cool. And it had to do with handing belts out to the less fortunate. And I was hoping that you could touch upon that a little bit, so you could bring a little bit of clarity to how that kind of originated and what was behind that, because I thought it was really cool.
No problem. Yeah, I'll explain that to you. So, yeah, it's funny how that kind of morphed into what it was. It's community outreach to the homeless that are in need is basically what ended up being the byproduct of something that just happened organically. Cruising around town with our camera folks from Live Rescue, we had seen a gentleman earlier in the day. Or I'd noticed a gentleman earlier in the day with his pants all the way down to his ankle, and he was walking around and, talking to himself, a little bit of psych history,
Sure.
Living on the streets for quite some time. But I'd seen him walking around, and then later on in the day, or later on, maybe actually about 45 minutes later, I see him laying down on the sidewalk, and his legs are completely in the turn lane. And of course, his pants were down around his ankle. So, he looked like he was down, and he might have needed some help. And,
Sure.
He at least needed a little bit of advice of like, hey, let's get your legs out of the lane, right, because it is dark. Someone could pull up and they'd crush your legs. Mm-hmm. So I pulled up and, I kind of gave him some advice of, hey, you need to get your legs out of the street. He stood up, started talking to him, and his pants were falling down. And so we wear dual compliant pants now. Okay. So, at first I told him like, hey, I don't have an extra belt for you. I'd like to help you out. But we wear dual compliant pants now. So the old yellow brush pants that we used to wear, I used to have a belt on that, and I remembered that I had a belt on there, and I was no longer going to need that. So I pulled that off and gave it to him, and he used it, and I just wanted to help him out. So It was an extra belt that I had, helped him out, and then that morphed into just awesome feedback from all the folks at the Live Rescue Nation, all the fan base that was reaching out saying, hey, we want to help. I mean, even people individually saying, can I replace the belt that you gave away? And I'm like, cool, no, I don't need that belt replaced. I'm not even going to wasn't even going to use it anymore as a 12, 15-year-old belt. But right, we've just had a flood of contributions and donations from all around the country, which is just so amazing because it really shows like how nice people are.
It's number one, it shows the quality person that you are, obviously recognizing that and stopping And like you said, even the little bit of advice, like he might not need medical care, but he might need somebody to talk to, right? And so that in itself is such a huge component of what we do. And then the fact that we can have, and I use that term "we" loosely, but the response community can have on the folks, because they don't necessarily get to see that every day, right? But to almost drive a movement where people want to help those in need, that means so much to us, right? So, people think that they're helping us as a response community. No, you're helping others, the less fortunate. And that's what's so cool about it. And I think that that's one of the really cool things that's, morphed out of this experience. Not just to bring awareness to our industry, but to bring awareness to the personalities within the industry. And I think that's really such a cool portion of it. So kudos to you on that, Chile. Again, as I said, that speaks volumes. And kudos to Live Rescue Nation for just jumping on that boat and, wanting to help. I think that was really awesome. So that's awesome.
I totally agree with you. Those guys, they're wonderful. And, we have direct contact with I get where they're coming from, and we have direct contact with homeless folks all the time, or folks that are out there day in, day out, hitting the streets, running the medical aids, going on the calls. They have direct contact with those folks, and they are able to make a difference. And those are people. Those are people out there, not just people with feelings, people that have a sister, a brother, a family member. Somebody's son, somebody's daughter, and they're out there on the street, and it is a sad situation. And many of them, just from my conversations talking to them, kind of like just, living the lifestyle that they live. But some of them are not there by choice, for sure.
Sure.
And so we're there, we are there day in and day out to, make contact with them. We have the opportunity to make contact with them. And so I just want everybody to know that, your contributions that you have sent, which we have plenty, by the way. I just got another inquiry today. So with someone that wanted to send in some belts, but we have plenty. Captain Marvizo has done a great job of getting out there with his crew and when he recognizes someone in need, handing out the belts. So
sure. That's so awesome.
Fantastic.
I mean, again, Live Rescue Nation, stay tuned. I'm sure there'll be another cause that we take up that we're going to need your help on, but thank you for that one. It brings me into the next topic, and, we like to discuss, certain topics, not just for the viewers and the fans, but also for responders themselves. And, one of the things that I wanted to touch upon with you was you kind of hit the ground running on the show with the wildfire show. Which really probably became the most dramatic show, the most dramatic episode of the series. And I think that it really captured people because it was so riveting, because it was happening live, and they were seeing the destruction, and they were seeing the panic, and they were seeing just how you folks operated in that chaos. And it was incredible. Number one, to see how you commanded that scene. But, it's interesting because that, and I don't want to say you're used to it, right? But that's something that's common out on that West Coast, right? Whereas here on the East Coast, we don't necessarily see that many wildfires or to that extent. And so I had some questions about you about that. As far as how you actually handle those incidents, as far as, basically wrapping your arms around that incident to get control of it because it's so chaotic and so out of control. But from a perspective of not only just the victims or potential victims, but the responders, is there a rehab component that goes into that? How do you set up rehab? Do you do medical monitoring for the firefighters before they go in? How does that, because it's such a grand scope, how does that work?
So, in that type of event, really it's all hands, right?
Yep.
Everybody needs to get to work, and we're asking. Of course, we're deploying the full weight and speed of all of our resources within the organization to at our disposal to be able to mitigate the threat.
Right.
And working, like we talked about earlier, in conjunction with law enforcement to make sure that evacuations are taking place,
right,
and that we are putting a stop and controlling the incident. And it's all it's all based on incident command. The incident command system is what allows us to deploy the resources and keep them organized and track where people are and know who's where and prioritize assignments as needed. And that incident command structure is also what allows us to integrate our cooperators and other agencies, even from needing assistance from the law enforcement agencies, Red Cross, Edison, and and local government departments that we need to get plugged in, also like streets, public works.
Sure.
So there's a whole host of things that go into making the incident command system work. But it's proven itself time and time again that good ICS, good incident command structure, could help you organize the scene. In regards to what you talked about for rehab and medical monitoring, that does occur on an instance like this where we're able to stabilize the incident within just a few hours. I think it was a 2-hour episode where most of the show was actually on that incident. Yeah. And, it was pretty well stabilized by that time, but, we were there through the night. We were there through the night and taking care of hot spots and making sure everything was buttoned up really well. And in doing so, once we get to that point where the incident is stabilized, then we're able to, really better able to assess our folks and make sure that everyone's taken care of in regards to their meals, their fatigue. Mm-hmm. Managing fatigue is huge on any major incident, but we talk about it in the wildland scenario all the time, that we need to manage the fatigue of our personnel and make sure that they are taken care of.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, as responders, we always want to be going 1,000 miles an hour, and we want to be involved in every single event for every single second, because that's really how we were, that's in our blood. And, as administrators, it's hard because you also want to do that, but then you have to wear that administrative hat and say, hey, listen, I have to look out for the best of my responders, right? I have to make sure for the health reasons that they're okay to continue, because I can't put them in danger, which is then going to put other responders in danger. And I think as far as incident command system, I think you nailed it right on the head, right? ICS was born out of, National Wildfire, right? And they were the ones that really developed ICS to the standard that it is. And I don't think that you could ever stress enough the importance of ICS, not just on wildfires, but on any major incident. And we know that the fire service practices ICS better than any discipline within emergency services. They always have. And that's something that needs to start to really trickle down to the other service arms of emergency services. But I think we're getting better because, unfortunately, we're seeing so many large-scale events that we have to. And again, I just want to say that was really a crazy episode, and it really showed you get down to business and really controlled that scene so well, and it really opened up the eyes of the viewers to say, oh my word, this is crazy, right? I mean, like, look at everything burning and it's just like moving in one wave, and it just kind of really highlighted the dangers that responders face on it every single day, but go at it. They always go right into the face of it. So kudos to you on that, Chile, and to the department as a whole. I mean, I know San Bernardino County is hopping. It's a big area. There's a lot of area to cover. You and I spoke a little bit offline about, the coverage area and how big is the area that you folks service? I mean, as far as the population is concerned and the area, it's pretty large.
That's right. You probably, some folks have probably heard it before, but San Bernardino County is the largest county in the continental United States. 20,105 square miles, 19,200 square miles of which the San Bernardino County Fire District services.
Wow.
And, there's a population in this county of a little over 2 million people, and, with 24 incorporated cities. But, we cover that with 48 professionally staffed fire stations 683 suppression personnel, and with our support personnel, we're well over 1,000 folks here just in our organization.
Wow.
So for 2019, we ran 149,332 calls.
That's it.
So
come on, Joe.
Very busy.
You can do better than that. We're gonna shoot bigger 2020. I'm telling you. Just kidding, Joe. So listen to me. It's obviously been a pleasure having you on here, and I'm going to be honest. The last 2 weeks I've had West Coast guys, so I'm going to start getting some heat from the East Coast here soon.
Okay.
But just learning a little bit about you guys, it's what intrigues me, and I've told everybody that probably the greatest thing about being part of the show. Not just highlighting the industry, was getting to meet so many awesome people from across the country, and being able to talk with them about, how they deliver their service and, what we have in common or what we're different, because it's just so cool to hear that, because we're so used to one way. But it's been a total pleasure, getting to meet you, getting to chat with you, not just today, but, on the phone and via text and things like that. And before I say goodbye to everybody and before we end this, I just want to hear, a couple closing thoughts from you on, again, what you feel so passionately about, and maybe something that the viewers and the listeners would like to hear that is a hobby of yours that, you might not have given up, something outside of work that you like to do.
Well, we talk about your first part, and I just want to dovetail onto what you said about just this experience in meeting everybody. Yeah, it's funny. The common denominator of the show, Live Rescue, everyone that has participated on it and been part of it, I feel like we all know each other
forever.
Somehow.
I know, it's crazy.
We all have this common bond, and so that's kind of cool. And being everybody's friend on social media and getting to see what else they have going on in their lives outside of the show, I think is really cool. Personally, I always like to call myself a karaoke advocate. If you like to karaoke, I will support you, and I will root you on and cheer on for you. And then when it's my turn, I'll be up there next.
It's game time. It's game time.
I enjoy doing karaoke myself.
All right, Chile,
Funny.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Keith Wade and I actually have a lot of things in common. When I heard him talk to you, stuff like with the band, the music, how he became a PIO, and his experience on the show. So I thought that's
pretty cool. All right. So in closing, give me Jason Chili Serrano his go-to song on the karaoke. What is it? When you're ready to slay everybody in the bar, what's the song you're going to? Don't be shy.
Audio Slave, Chris Cornell.
Oh, wow.
Rest in peace, Chris.
Yep.
I really like I Am the Highway or Like a Stone.
Look at you. You don't even go easy. You're going with Chris Cornell, one of the greatest rock voices of all time.
He's pretty amazing.
Oh, my gosh. Well, listen to me. When I come out to California, I'm going to have to meet up with Wade because I have to get on the drums, and I'm thinking that you and he are going to have to hit the vocals, and so we're going to get something going. What do you think?
Hey, let's do it. I can strum some chords on my guitar, and you can play drums for me.
Even better. Excellent. Well, that's an invite to me. Chili, listen, dude, it was an awesome pleasure having you on today. I know the listeners are going to love listening to you and all your stories and all the passion that you bring to not just the show, but to your profession. So again, on behalf of them, I want to thank you for coming on, and I look forward to staying in touch with you and keeping it going, man.
For sure. Yeah, we'll keep in touch. I'll talk to you real soon, Mike. Take care. Thanks
later,
for having
Chili.
me.
Take care, buddy. All right, everybody. Thanks again. That's another episode of Open Mic. I want to thank Chili Serrano for being on with us. We look forward to catching up with all of you again next week with another guest. And again, keep supporting our first responders. Let them know what a great job they're doing. And we will talk to you real soon. Take care.